we do. You perhaps already know, because we're in Germany, and ride-sharing is not a completely new thing here in Germany, but it is actually new in many of the countries in which we do it. So a quick reminder of what is ride-sharing. In Germany, you call it carpooling. So essentially, there's a car owner, and the car owner is making a long journey. That long journey has costs for the car owner, and the car owner, in many cases, has empty seats. And what we do is connect that car owner with people who want to make the same journey so they can travel together and share the costs. So apart from doing this in Germany, we also do this in 19 markets across the world. We started in France, focused mainly on continental Europe, but we're now active on a much wider global footprint than that. So Turkey, Russia, and at the moment we're focusing on expansion in Latin America. So more concretely, what we do is we have like a desktop platform and mobile app, and we allow drivers to publish a trip, a planned trip that enters a database, and on the other side, passengers can then search that database and connect with the driver to make their journey. The other really important thing that we do, apart from being a travel search engine, is also building a trusted community. So people who use our platform have member profiles. Those member profiles are very important because they essentially allow what would otherwise be a connection between two strangers to become a connection between two trusted people, because we have verified information and a reputation system based on ratings. So I didn't actually come here to pitch BlaBlaCar, but it's thought that it was important to give you a little bit of context on our business, because what we do actually influences what we do on TV. We're not, and this is probably common for a lot of, practically all e-commerce services, disruptive services, what we do is not your regular FMCG brand, right? We're not selling toothpaste. So we're actually selling in a quite different way to what has historically been marketing and branding. And in my opinion, that has quite a few consequences for what we do and what we do on TV. Challenges, I would say. So these are a couple of the key challenges that we identified before we started doing TV marketing. First of all, we're a marketplace. I don't know if there are any marketplaces out in the audience, but like I said, we connect drivers and passengers. What that means is we have two audiences, and we have two products. So how do we put that into a TV campaign, right? Because we don't want to do two campaigns. You have one brand, we want one message, but we actually have two value propositions. So that was a challenge. Another thing is that, as I mentioned, we're a peer-to-peer service. So we're not your typical kind of brand, we're actually a community. Most TV advertising uses actors. How does that translate to what we do as a community, right? The third point is that, and this is common to all disruptive services, we're asking consumers to adopt a new behavior. We're creating a product category. That's very different from entering as a competitor in an existing category. Why is it different? Because actually people don't know what our service does for them. They don't know what's in it for them. We have to explain to them how it works and what's in it for them. And finally, as we've spoken of earlier today, we are a performance-based company. If we're going to do TV, we're going to do it in a performance-based marketing approach that's very agile and data-driven. How does that impact our decisions as we go onto the TV media? So we came up with a couple of solutions. What you see here is basically our brand signature. We decided to go with some mascots for our TV campaigns. We thought that mascots were a smart idea because they were going to solve some of the challenges that I mentioned just earlier. We have two audiences, two products, so instead of doing one mascot, we did two mascots. We thought that was pretty smart because it allowed us to have a single brand universe with a single story, but then that could be adjusted to different value propositions. And it allows us to adapt. I'm going to go back to this. On the second point, it's not a product, it's not a service, it's a community. The question of actors in production, we just avoided completely by using mascots. On the point of having a new behavior, we solved this because mascots are actually a really great way to do educational content that's very didactic. And for the agile performance marketing problem, doing mascots in the 3D animation is very easy production with low costs, so we were able to iterate in an agile way. So this is what we did as a solution. This is kind of our key brand concept. And this, we're going to show you now a little video about how that takes form in lots and lots of different pieces of content. To date, in the last year since we started TV, we've produced about 40 pieces of content around this idea.
Uncomfortable buses, wait-listed trains. Problem yaar. Rising fuel expenses. Problem yaar. Solution है ना? BlaBlaCar. Car owners enter करो city of departure and arrival. चुनो desired fuel contributions. Offer करो ride and share costs. Co-travelers do your ride. Choose the car owner going their way and request to share the journey. हो गया. BlaBlaCar. Enjoy your journey. Download the free app now. BlaBlaCar, BlaBlaCar.
Ist Ihnen auch langweilig auf langen Autofahrten? Dann nehmen Sie doch Mitfahrer über BlaBlaCar mit. Bewertungen und Mitgliederprofile helfen Ihnen bei der Auswahl. BlaBlaCar! So bekommen Sie zum Beispiel auf der Strecke Hamburg-Berlin bis zu 42 € plus gute Unterhaltung. Jetzt die kostenlose App runterladen.
BlaBlaCar, BlaBlaCar!
Feeling a fool paying for fuel? Use the ride-sharing app BlaBlaCar. Just enter your journey details, the fuel contribution you want from passengers, and offer a ride. Your journey has additional insurance cover by AXA free of charge.
BlaBlaCar!
For example, driving from Manchester to London with 3 passengers, you receive £45. Start saving today. Download the free app now.
BlaBlaCar, BlaBlaCar!
Envie de bouger sans vous ruiner? Hoe gaat dat moet plus viajes?
Ben jij je torenhoge reiskosten ook zat? Rijd dan samen via BlaBlaCar.
Entrez votre destination, choisissez votre horaire et votre conducteur.
Et réserve à BlaBlaCar. You get additional insurance on your journey provided by AXA free of charge.
BlaBlaCar! BlaBlaCar!
Covoiturage confiance. Téléchargez l'appli pour voyager à petit prix, mais au dernier moment.
BlaBlaCar.
So you love me now, right? Yeah, pretty annoying. I'll get to that. That was actually intentional. So what you see here, like I said, is really easy in terms of production. There are essentially 3 layers of production here. There's some 3D animation, there's some motion design overlay, and which we do completely in-house, which really allows like crazy agility. If we need to adapt a 20-second spot to a 25-second spot, we can do that in like under a week. And then there's the voiceover, which we do locally, which allows us for like very good localization. You see here the different motion designs. So apart from designing for flexibility, the other thing that we're really designing for, as I mentioned earlier, is education. It's really important for, I think, e-commerce businesses, disruptive businesses, everything that has a new value proposition. My key belief is that you can't sell something that people don't understand. Right? So the reason that we went with mascots, as I said earlier, is because it's a great way to bring a little bit of fun into content that's essentially very informational and very didactic. So you see here some third-party results that we did on a qualitative study of our content, and respondents were asked to select a word that best describes the content that they saw. And you see the top word emerging is informative. So that's a great result. Well, I consider that a great result for us because that was basically the brief that we set to ourselves. But back to the larger question, is like, how does this perform, right? Here's another piece of research that we did on this content, which is basically grading our content versus a database of other content used in France on key factors that are considered important for impact. So I don't have the time to talk about all of those and how we achieved that, but I'm going to pull out 3 and talk about them now. Overall, we're looking at some really strong results here, basically. Orange is average, and green is above average. And we're quite a lot above average when we're above average, right? So the first one that I'd like to pull out here is this active involvement score, which is really interesting. Active involvement is important for us. Why? Because we mentioned it before, we're trying to drive traffic, right? So as digital marketers, we know that in every piece of content there should be a call to action. Well, that goes for TV too, right? So my top tip here, try to make it a little bit actionable, is don't forget the call to action. You saw in our content, there was basically a giant plasticine finger pressing on the button, right? Not very subtle. It gets the job done. Okay, the second point that I'd like to pull out here is what's called the key message, or key message A, because in a piece of content you can have a key message A, key message B, and a key message C. But what's really important is actually people only ever hear one thing. So my advice to you, and what I really try to work on in designing this content, is that you have to work with the company to get like ruthless alignment on what single thing it is that you want people to understand, to take away from your content. And then you hammer it, right? Because you can only say one thing, so you've got to choose that thing and then get it right. So that's what we see here. And the way to get that done is, as I put in my top tip, take stuff out. Really, you can't say many things, you can only say one thing well. Okay, my third point is about brand. So I could say my advice to you is design silly content with plasticine mascots and a really annoying jingle. That's not really what I'm saying. Right? That's just one way of doing it. My key takeaway is there are huge FMCG brands out there using TV as a channel. And our media budgets are very, very small fish in that ecosystem. But we have one advantage. Right? We're small, we're young, and we're brave. We can take risks. So that's what things like silly mascots and annoying jingle were. They were a risk. It's difficult to sell that into a company, right? But what you've got to do is you've got to leverage your advantage, your ability to take risks. So do whatever it is that you need to do. Be silly, be cute, be funny, be daring, be annoying, but do it full, like really go for it. Right? That's my belief. And I think that's what makes memorable content, and memorable content is what drives business. That's it from me. I'm going to pass the mic to Adrien, with whom I work, on other aspects of putting together a TV campaign at BlaBlaCar.
Thank you, Vanina. I'm Adrien from the growth team at BlaBlaCar. So what is a growth team? A growth team is a central team that helps any market on this map, the yellow countries, to boost their growth. So we do that in a bunch of ways. For instance, we will deliver the right analytics at the right time. We will help them execute their business plans and many other things. And what we did for TV is actually, we did the first test and we brought the great vision, the great content that Vanina has designed. So I'm going to tell you the story of how we scale TV at BlaBlaCar. It started with two simple questions. So we looked at this map and tried to answer the first one, which is, where are we going to launch TV? Where are we going to broadcast this content? The second one was, how? How are we going to buy our media? How are we going to measure the effect of TV? How are we going to scale it? So to be honest, when you look at this map, it's quite I mean, it's really two simple words, but it's quite tough to answer these questions. And every time we face that kind of challenges at BlaBlaCar, we try small, but we think big. And that's what we did in France. So we decided to start with the first test in France. At that time, we didn't know how to buy media at all, I mean TV media. So we started to benchmark TV agencies. It was super time consuming. We got really a lot of learning along the way, and after 2 months, we selected a TV agency and had our first campaign. So it was about 10 days. You know, first test, 100k euro budget, which is pretty small when you consider TV, but still, as a first test, it seemed pretty big for us. And that's what we saw. So it was in 2014, last year in June, and we saw a massive uplift in terms of growth. So 131% month-of-month growth, no, year-on-year, sorry. And you have to keep in mind that for BlaBlaCar, I mean, we're talking about France, which is historically our, major market. And in order achieving at this stage where, our service was already mainstream, to accelerate our growth this way, like we accelerated our growth by a multiple 2. It was really a great success. And now we're still thriving with that. I mean, we're growing at a very fast pace thanks to TV and other offline channels. So then, after France, we decided to roll out the same process in other countries. And within a year, we started in 8 other countries. The same process. We went to the country, benchmark agencies, launched the first test, and waited for the results. Along the way, we gathered quite a few learnings. We were able actually to grasp what TV was bringing to BlaBlaCar. And if I had to sum it up in a few words, I would say that actually TV is quite simple. It allows BlaBlaCar to reach a lot of people at a very fast pace. It's easy, right? But it doesn't mean that every of our market would need that. So we had to take a step back and think of our business goal first, because TV can be a means to achieve a business goal, but it's not the solution to every market. So we came up with some guidelines and a short list of specific markets in which we wanted to launch TV. And as I told you, we went very locally to buy our media in each market. So we did that actually because we didn't want to commit to big budget at first because we wanted to test. But I think we're going to continue to buy locally our media for 3 reasons. The first one is, as we went to each market and benchmarked TV agencies, actually we got a pretty good understanding of the TV landscape. Because buying media in India, or in Spain, or in the UK, or in Germany, is a different topic. Then the second reason, and I think it's actually the most important one, is that it gives empowerment to your local teams. And that's really part of our DNA at BlaBlaCar. I mean, we are a bunch of entrepreneurs, and if you don't give accountability for the TV budget to your local teams, they're just not going to do the job the right way. And as I told you, they're really good entrepreneurs, so as we gave them accountability, it led to better negotiation and better media buy. So that's why the second pillar of TV at BlaBlaCar, of executing TV, is actually going local to buy your media. And then now we had the third challenge, which was actually to understand what was the effect of TV for BlaBlaCar. And that's where it gets interesting and a bit tricky at the same time, because you've got so many products, solutions out there that, will help you understand the effect of TV, as Mathieu was saying this morning. But at first, when you don't know how to do it, it feels a bit like this, a very messy toolbox. So think about this messy toolbox, and that we were launching in several countries. And I will come up to your local team and say, okay, this is my messy toolbox, please help yourself and try to figure out what TV brings you. So what would they do? They would either choose the wrong tool, or use the right tool but the wrong way, or build their own tools and just bring another messy tool into the toolbox. So at some point we had 10 different ways of seeing TV that were not leading to the same output. So we had to take a step back because, I mean, I was pretty not scared, but I thought that was not scalable at all. So we had to do something. And we took a step back and considered TV as science. And when I said TV is science, I mean, it's my belief. And it's not a marketer telling you that TV is science. I mean, I'm more of a scientist. I studied quantum physics, and I still don't know why I'm doing marketing. But I strongly believe that TV is science. And when I say that TV is science, I mean that just like in every science, you need a methodology. So we took this really messy toolbox, just put it apart, and took a step back and thought about our goals. So what do we want actually to achieve with TV? From the very micro goals to like the spot-by-spot performance to the macro one, which is brand awareness. We just wrote down all of these goals, all of the KPIs associated. So for instance, top of mind for brand awareness and response rate, uplift in visits, as Mathieu said this morning, for spot-by-spot performances. And then we came back to our toolbox, and we actually picked each tool and said, okay, this does not meet the demand, this does. And for instance, for brand awareness, we just realized we didn't have any tool to measure effectively our brand awareness, so we had to build one. For direct response, we had 3 different tools that were leading to different output. So we had to go really to drill down into the methodology. I'm not going to get into the details right now, but of direct response in order to have, to select the best tool available. And then after, when you've done that, you've got your lead toolbox, it's just fun, right? You just experiment. You buy your media, you iterate on your content, you set goals for your brand awareness, and it gets really fun at this point. And as I was telling you, if TV is science, you need a scientist or you need a teacher, because it's quite complex and you don't want all of your local teams to grasp exactly how every single tool works. And so that's why at the Growth team we support our local team with global analytics. And this is super important to keep the consistency across every single market. So these are the 3 main pillars of TV at BlaBlaCar. I mean, we're still working on every single of these pillars, but now really our single focus right now is just to scale.
So just to wrap up, what I would say is that what's really interesting about this graph is the very, very end point, because you can kind of see our test period, but the trajectory right on the end is starting to look very interesting. So we believe that TV has an enormous amount of potential as a lever for growth for us. And as it stands now, we actually can't see the ceiling of TV for as an impetus to our growth. So watch this space.
Thank you.